No one dictates your joy more than you allow. Not the advertisements, not the trends, not even the expectations of your loved ones. You are the architect, the inhabitant, the gatekeeper, and the true wealth of your inner kingdom. And yet most people willingly give the keys to their contentment to external forces. They live chasing the next purchase, the next status symbol, the next fleeting approval, believing these will fill an inner void. But the Stoic sees through this grand illusion. The Stoic understands that your peace is what your mind makes it. Your spirit is dyed by the clarity of your desires. To live as if you are truly free is not about asceticism. It is not about deprivation or rejection of the world. It is not about flaunting simplicity or moral superiority. It is about living in alignment with your deepest, most enduring needs. The needs reflected in the quiet certainty of your own soul. You don't seek intrinsic contentment to impress others. You seek it to become who you are authentically meant to be. That pursuit is not a performance. It is a profound practice, and that practice becomes your freedom. When you walk with a mindset of inner abundance, you don't need to announce it. It radiates. People sense it not because you said something, but because your presence is a testament. Freedom is not always loud. Sometimes it is silent, but always it is profound. Let's begin. All things begin in thought. Every impulse, every craving, every perceived lack is conceived in the mind before it is made real in the world through consumption. The Stoic understands this law of life deeply. The outer world of endless products is always a shadow of the inner world of restless desires. Your purchases are echoes of your beliefs about what you lack. Your contentment is the shape of your self-sufficiency, and your self-sufficiency is the fruit of your thoughts nurtured daily, hour by hour, whether you realize it or not. You cannot walk with the presence of true freedom unless you first think with it. Freedom is not a luxury granted by abundance. It is a position of the mind. It is not given. It is claimed. The Stoic knows you will never act consistently like the most contented version of yourself if you think like the most wanting. You can accumulate the right possessions, display the right brands, mimic external success. But if your thoughts remain small, grasping, and scattered by comparison, the illusion breaks. The truth always leaks out, and it leaks through your anxieties, your endless searching, your dissatisfaction, your debt. When Marcus Aurelius said the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, he wasn't painting a poetic metaphor. He was crafting a weapon and a warning. He meant if your thoughts are drenched in scarcity, your soul will carry that hue. If your mind is stained with endless longing, you will act out that tension. If you think like a slave to desire, you will chase like one. But if your mind is steeped in gratitude, sufficiency, and inner wealth, then that is the shade your soul will wear. It is not decoration. It is identity. You don't need to declare it. You become it. That is why living freely doesn't start with action. It begins with intention. The moment you wake up before the world gets its hands on you, you have a window, a moment where you decide who you are today, not based on yesterday's wants, not based on how others define success, but based on who you choose to be. That choice is not loud. It is quiet, internal. It sounds like, I don't need external validation today. I need internal alignment. I don't need more applause. I need more direction. I don't need to outperform others. I need to embody my own standards of sufficiency. This mental rehearsal is not denial. It is vision. You become what you consistently repeat, both in thought and in action. The Stoic does not look outward to define true richness. They look inward. They ask, what do I truly need to thrive? Who am I when no one is watching my possessions? What actions build me into someone who is truly self-possessed and content? and then they follow through. Not once, daily, repeatedly. Because freedom is not a singular act. It is a pattern of loyalty to your principles. Every time you choose contentment over craving, presence over distraction, simplicity over accumulation, you are voting for the person you want to become. Every choice is a vote. Every action is a reinforcement. You're not only building a habit, you are reinforcing your identity, layer by layer, brick by brick. The mind is always thinking, but that does not mean every thought deserves your attention. The Stoic strength begins in their ability to filter. Discipline is born from discernment. Discernment asks, is this thought helping me or weakening me? Is this building a future where I am truly free, or is it dragging me into patterns of endless acquisition that no longer serve me? This is where attention becomes sacred. Attention is what determines what you water, and what you water inevitably grows. So ask yourself, not just in the abstract, but directly, what thoughts am I watering today? Am I feeding my doubts about scarcity or my discipline of sufficiency? Am I fueling my fears of missing out or my focus on what truly matters? Am I rehearsing lack or possibility? You do not need to be perfect to live like the most contented version of yourself. You need to be honest, clear, deliberate. You don't need to know the whole path. You only need to take the next step in alignment with your higher self. The mind sets the trajectory. Action follows, but the direction always begins in thought. So begin there. Begin with the only place true change can take root, in the sanctuary of your mind. Guard it. Direct it, refine it, and let that inner mastery be the soil from which all your future freedom grows. To live as if you're truly free is not to fantasize about a perfect future where all your desires are met or wait for the ideal circumstances to arrive. It is not about imagining some distant version of yourself that only comes alive when all the stars of consumerism align. No. The Stoic lives in the now because the most contented version of you is not hidden in some far-off achievement or wrapped in the next successful purchase. It is found in the discipline of the next action you choose to take today. That is where freedom lives, not in the abstract, but in the immediate. The present moment is not a holding space. It is a battleground. It is where your potential for peace either lives or dies. And while many wait for the future to deliver contentment, the Stoic knows that the only moment that matters is the one unfolding right now. To live like you're truly free means to command this moment, to give it your full presence, not your distracted, diluted attention. Presence is not passivity. It is not sitting back and watching life happen. It is the opposite. It is command. It is deliberate ownership. It is the powerful decision to bring your entire being to whatever task lies in front of you, no matter how small, mundane, or unseen it may be. True freedom is not only found in grand declarations of independence. It is made in repetition, in humility, in showing up when no one's watching. That's why the Stoic does not dismiss the small tasks. They see them as sacred. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. Epictetus asked, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? That question is not rhetorical. It is meant to shake you. The answer should not be deferred. The answer should become your creed. I do not wait. I show up. I commit. I act. Even when the desire for more fades. Even when the conditions are imperfect. Even when no one will praise me for it. Because presence is power, and the one who masters presence masters inner freedom. Discipline is so often mistaken for a checklist. Avoiding impulse buys, meditating daily, practicing gratitude. These things are visible, measurable, tangible. But true discipline lives below the surface. It's not about what you check off, but about what you commit to, especially when no one else sees. It's about treating your time as sacred, your energy as finite, and your attention as currency. Discipline means realizing that each moment you live is an opportunity to either affirm or deny the highest version of yourself, and that the version you affirm most often will win. You don't only act like your most contented self when the sun is shining or when your motivation is high. You don't wait for external rewards to arrive or the circumstances to be perfect. You act like it in the silence, in the grind, in the boring repetition of daily sufficiency. You hold the standard even when the environment doesn't demand it, because your standard isn't dictated by the world. It's dictated by your soul. When the day feels ordinary, you rise with extraordinary intention. You refuse to be lulled in a craving by routine. You show up like your inner peace is on the line. You wake not just to go through the motions, but to refine them. When your tasks feel menial, you bring mastery to them. Because the way you treat the smallest details reflects how you approach your character as a whole. You make your bed like you're laying the foundation of your inner sanctuary. You answer the email like it is a letter to your future, self-sufficient self. You walk into the meeting with posture, not to appear confident, but to embody inner alignment. You move like you respect yourself, because that's what the most content version of you does. Every task, no matter how small, becomes a spiritual act, a form of worship for your principles, your discipline, your commitment to inner excellence. Freedom is not a performance. It's a devotion, and the Stoic treats it as such. Each action is not just a brick, but a signature. Each brick builds a wall that's not just for defense, but for dignity. Each wall, over time, becomes a fortress of identity, a stronghold that no external pressure can tear down and no fleeting desire can dissolve. Because the Stoic knows true freedom is not a single dramatic moment. It's a pattern woven through time, a series of small, deliberate choices that stack quietly, steadily into something immovable. Patterns are shaped in places where there is no applause, no spotlight, and no reward beyond self-respect. Freedom isn't born on a stage or in a headline. It's born in the repetition of your values when it's tempting to betray them. It's forged in the early mornings when the bed feels warm and your purpose feels distant. It's forged in the late nights when no one will ever know you stayed and finished what you promised yourself you'd do. It's in the moments when compromise whispers to you, just this once, and you answer with a quiet but firm no. It's in the delayed reaction when comparison flares, but you pause and choose gratitude. It's in the decision to simplify when accumulation would have been easier. It's the unseen effort decluttering your mind, maintaining order in chaos, pushing through the fog of fatigue. These aren't just moral victories. These are the seeds of enduring contentment. They build strength into your bones, into your habits, into the shape of your identity. The small decisions you make today, they're not small. They are architectural. Each one is a blueprint of who you are building. You are either constructing a temple of strength, patience, and clarity, or you are pouring foundations on shifting sand. There is no in between. Every action is a chisel, every choice a brick. The Stoic chooses with awareness, with purpose, with the recognition that life is cumulative, that the person you wake up as tomorrow is already being shaped by what you choose today. So live like the most contented version of yourself today, not because it is easy, it won't be, but because it is the most honest version of you, the one who refuses to betray their potential for comfort. The one who walks into discomfort with composure. The one who doesn't need perfection to act with power. When tomorrow comes, you'll look back not with regret, but with quiet gratitude. Because you didn't wait. You didn't shrink. You showed up. You stood tall when no one asked you to. You upheld your values when it would have been easier to bend. That version of you becomes your real self. Not an ideal you pretend to chase, but a reality you choose to live. This isn't fantasy, it's foundation. This isn't ego, it's embodiment. Over time, that embodiment becomes armor. Not the kind that blocks connection, but the kind that protects integrity. What you do regularly becomes what you trust. What you practice daily becomes who you are instinctively. And who you are moment by moment becomes the echo you leave behind when you're no longer in the room. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your rituals. So make them sacred. Let them hold you when motivation fades. Let them shape you when no one sees. Let them become the rhythm of your quiet, undeniable freedom. Confidence is often mistaken for bravado. It's commonly confused with noise, with volume, with boasting and outward dominance. But the Stoic knows that real confidence is quiet. It is calm. It is rooted. It does not shout for attention because it does not need it. It does not seek applause because it is not performative. It seeks alignment between what you believe, what you say, and what you do. Confidence built on integrity does not crack under the weight of pressure because it is not built on sand. It is not dependent on the opinions of others, which shift like wind. It is not reliant on circumstances, which change with time. It is built on the unwavering foundation of values lived out consistently. The Stoic understands that real confidence is the byproduct of living in truth, even when that truth is inconvenient, costly, or unseen. You say you're content, then act it, not loudly, but with repetition. Not in words, but in rhythms. Show it when it's early and no one's watching. Show it when you're tired and no one would blame you for cutting corners. Contentment isn't about dramatic gestures. It's the silent promise you keep when it's inconvenient. You say you are self-sufficient, then prove it. Not in short sprints of motivation, but in long stretches of undistracted effort. True self-sufficiency isn't flashy. It's consistent. And you say you're the most free version of yourself. Then prove it to no one but yourself. That proof lies in the details. How you carry yourself. How you do the invisible things with the same care as the visible ones. Do it when no eyes are on you, when no applause is offered, when the only reward is your reflection in the mirror and the quiet voice that says you honored yourself. This form of confidence is internal. It is forged in solitude, in the absence of applause, in the crucible of your own standards. It is a sacred dialogue between you and your conscience. And when that relationship is clean, when you know you've kept your word to yourself, you walk differently. You carry yourself with gravity. You speak with less hesitation, not because you have all the answers, but because you no longer need to shrink. You make decisions with clarity, not because the risk has vanished, but because you trust the one taking the risk. You walk into rooms not needing to be validated, but knowing that you already are. This is not arrogance. It is quiet authority, the kind that grows not from pride, but from principle, the kind that cannot be faked, imitated, or outsourced. It does not require validation because it is rooted in action. It glows in your eyes, not with ego, but with certainty. It steadies your breath, grounds your posture, tempers your reactions. It holds you firmly when the world is pulling you in every direction because you've built an inner compass that doesn't spin. Be so aligned in what you think, what you say, and what you do that performance becomes unnecessary. Let your life be the undeniable proof of your inner truth. Not by announcing your worth, but by embodying it. When your actions speak with the quiet consistency of integrity, they echo louder than any boast. You aren't striving to persuade anyone of your value. You are simply living as someone who no longer questions it. And that quiet confidence changes everything. People sense it. They may not be able to name it, but they feel the presence of someone who is settled, steady, and deeply rooted. The world begins to respond not to your ambition, but to your embodiment, not to what you say you'll do, but to what you've already become. Because when you truly embody your most content self, you don't need to explain it. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't even need to signal it. You radiate it through your stillness, through your consistency. It becomes a felt experience, not just for those close to you, but for anyone who shares space with you. It moves through your energy, how you show up, how you breathe, how you move through stress. It whispers through your discipline, seen in the way you decline what does not serve your peace and commit to what does. It becomes visible in the way you treat others with attention, with patience, with power held in quiet restraint. It shows in how you hold space when chaos swirls, how you stay grounded while others shake, how you lead not through noise, but through example. And it begins in how you listen, not just to the voices outside you, but to the voice within. That internal alignment creates external clarity. It's seen in how you keep showing up day after day, not just when the world cheers, but when no one's watching. Not only when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Because you're not performing contentment. You're living in devotion. You're not pretending strength. You've trained for it. You don't need a reason to live aligned. You've made your way of life. That's where the Stoic draws strength, not from others' approval, but from personal coherence. But most importantly, you feel it, and that feeling cannot be faked. You feel the strength of self-respect, not borrowed or scripted, but forged in daily actions. You feel the freedom of not needing to perform for the world, the ease of not having to prove something. You feel the peace of resting fully in who you are, not because someone told you you're enough, but because you've shown yourself again and again that you are. You've risen when you could have stayed down. You've persisted when comfort called your name. You've held firm when temptation tugged at your values. You've become a witness to your own power. And that feeling, that hard-earned, deep-seated, unshakable feeling becomes your fuel. That fuel becomes your fire. That fire becomes your path. And that path becomes your mission. Not flashy or loud, but steady and enduring. You no longer chase purpose. You live it. You no longer seek permission. You act from conviction. And with each step forward, your life becomes a testament not to perfection, but to alignment, presence, and truth, one grounded step at a time. The mind never stops. It is ceaseless, untamed by default, and driven by memory, emotion, and instinct. But the Stoic does not aim to silence the mind, only to steer it, to harness its wild momentum and give it shape, to train it like a river that can flood or nourish depending on its direction, to pause it like a soldier at the gate, not in suppression, but in sovereignty. Stillness is not the absence of thought. That is a myth. The mind will always think, but stillness is the art of filtering. It is the discipline of choosing what thoughts to water and which to let pass like wind. Stillness is the mastery of attention. It is not a void. It is an active, vigilant state where you do not allow yourself to be yanked into every flashing advertisement, every fleeting trend, every shallow comparison. It is not laziness. It is not detachment. It is command. To live as if you are truly free, you must protect your inner space with the same force you would guard your home. You must become a gatekeeper of your focus, because focus is the source of all intrinsic wealth and moral power. You must guard your mind as though it is sacred real estate, because it is. What lives in your mind determines the quality of your decisions, the tone of your speech, the direction of your life. Most people spend their mental energy reacting to headlines, to opinions, to criticism, to gossip, to their own impulsive thoughts. The Stoic is different. The Stoic spends their mental energy refining, not reacting, but responding, not absorbing everything, but questioning everything, They do not chase every thought that arises. They pause. They examine. They ask, is this thought useful? Is it mine? Is it true? Or is it planted by fear, by ego, by culture, by insecurity? That interrogation is the doorway to clarity. And in this way, stillness becomes more than peace. It becomes power. It becomes the foundation upon which strong choices are built. It becomes the fertile soil where decisive, wise, and purposeful actions take root. When the Stoic acts from stillness, they act without regret. They move forward, not in haste, but in harmony. The world is unbearably loud. Everyone is shouting, everyone is posturing, everyone is signaling. But the Stoic does not bend to the rhythm of noise. The Stoic moves to a different rhythm, a silent one, steady and unfazed. The truly free do not sprint with the crowd. They walk with purpose. They are not in a hurry because they are clear, and clarity can never be rushed. Stillness is not weakness. It is the opposite. It takes strength to remain calm when the world is chaotic. It takes power to stay unmoved while others react emotionally. The Stoic knows that the person who can remain still under pressure has more influence than the one who panics with volume. Stillness is gravity. People are drawn to it. They sense it. They trust it. If you want to live as if you are truly free, then start by mastering your inputs. This is the hidden lever of transformation. What you allow into your mind shapes what comes out of your mouth, what moves your hands, and what directs your path. Choose thoughts that build your contentment, not break it. Choose content that strengthens your mind, not scatters it. Choose people who elevate your perspective, not those who poison it with envy or endless wanting. And above all, choose silence when the world demands noise, not to escape, but to reconnect with truth. Silence is not emptiness. It is space for truth. It is where wisdom gathers. It is where clarity sharpens. It is the room where your future, truly free self comes to speak. In silence, the ego has less space to perform, and the soul has more room to breathe. In that breath, you find vision. In that vision, you find direction. In that direction, you become unstoppable, not because you are loud, but because you are clear. Stillness is not the end. It is the beginning of every truly free action, the foundation of every self-sufficient identity, the birth of every moment that will later be called intrinsic contentment. So sit with it, build it, honor it, because in stillness you stop reacting to life and start leading it. Power is often confused with dominance, with volume, with the ability to control others or command attention. But the Stoic sees power differently. Less as something imposed, more as something held. True power is not found in control over others, but in control over the self. It is not measured by how loudly you speak, but by how firmly you stand. It is not tested in moments of ease, but in moments of pressure. True power is the ability to govern the self, to act when it is right, to wait when it is wise, to speak when it is needed, and to remain silent when it is not. To live as if you're truly free is to walk with quiet power, the kind that does not crave attention, but attracts it anyway, the kind that does not beg for respect, but commands it by presence alone, the kind that doesn't need to be seen to be felt. It does not shout its values. It lives them, breathes them, and allows them to echo through every action. Quiet power does not posture. It does not rise and fall with the opinions of others. It does not enter rooms with the need to prove itself. It simply is. It walks in alignment, and that alignment creates an undeniable presence, stable, unmoved, grounded. When you carry this kind of power, people notice, but not because you announce it. They notice because you no longer flinch, you no longer shrink, you no longer hustle for a seat at the table. You bring your own chair, or you build your own table. You don't need to dominate conversations. You don't need to interrupt others to feel important. You don't need to win every verbal exchange to prove you're right. Your discipline of detachment speaks louder than any boast. Your calm speaks volumes in rooms where tension rises. Your restraint becomes more impressive than any outburst ever could be. True power doesn't need a flash. It anchors. This power does not come from mere achievement, nor does it require attention. It comes from one thing: consistency. Showing up every single day with the same standard of contentment. Even when no one is looking, even when the results are slow, even when recognition never arrives. It is forged in the mundane, in the silent, repetitive acts of character. It is formed when you choose principle over pride, when you resist the comfort of shortcuts in favor of the clarity that comes with self-sufficiency. It is born every time you say no to what tempts you off your purpose. Every time you say yes to what stretches your ego, what corrects your pride, what humbles your ambition. This is the kind of power that won't trend, but it transforms. It's not made for applause. It's made for legacy. Because this kind of power changes you. And when you change yourself, you change everything. The Stoic does not waste energy trying to impress. They know that energy is not infinite. They do not throw themselves into the winds of reaction. They do not jump into every battle for material gain. They do not prove themselves to crowds who do not even know their name. Instead, they invest that energy in remaining whole, in maintaining internal peace, in staying aligned. The Stoics' energy goes inward before it goes outward. That is why they remain calm in conflict, composed in criticism, focused when all around them seems to be chaos. They do not react to every shifting wind. They do not bend to trends or reach for popularity. They are not moved by every critic, nor distracted by every cheer. They are rooted in something far deeper than approval, truth. And that truth becomes their compass. That compass keeps them from drifting. That compass keeps them on course when others spiral. They walk a straight path in a crooked world, not because it is easy, but because it is right. They do not exhaust themselves trying to be seen. They don't perform. They don't chase visibility. They build such a clear presence through action, through integrity, through intention that even in silence they stand out. The world may not always cheer for them. That's fine. They do not need the cheer because the ones who walk in quiet power leave echoes that last. They leave impressions on hearts, on minds, on moments, not because they demanded it, but because they earned it. To live as if you're truly free is to embody this power, this calm, clear inner strength that doesn't serve ego. It serves alignment. So when you look in a mirror, you don't just see a face. You see a soul you trust. You see someone who stood firm, someone who resisted the pull of external validation, someone who held the line when no one else could, someone who didn't need to shout to be known, someone who walked like they meant it. This power is not dramatic, but it is durable. It cannot be stolen. It cannot be copied. It cannot be inflated with fake praise. It is built from the inside out. It is self-generated through repeated decisions, self-directed by unwavering values, self-honoring in both silence and action. It is not a performance. It is a path, and it is walked not for the eyes of others, but for the strength of your own soul. To live like you're truly free is to refine yourself from the inside out. The Stoic does not decorate the outside while the inside lies in disorder. They know that polished words and well-crafted appearances mean little if the soul remains untended. They prioritize the inner temple first, the mind, the heart, the spirit, because that is where strength begins. Inner excellence is not about performance, but about principle. It is not about appearing perfect, but about practicing consistency. It is the deliberate choice to be whole rather than hollow. True freedom is not a destination. It is a discipline, a daily conversation between who you are and who you're becoming, a steady commitment to improvement. Not because you are broken, but because you respect your potential. The Stoic knows that potential is not a guarantee. It is an invitation, an opportunity to become more than what you've inherited or what you've drifted into. The Stoic does not confuse self-love with self-indulgence. Love that does not challenge you to grow is not love. It is permission to stay small. True love for the self is expressed through accountability, through the pursuit of virtue, through the refusal to stay the same when you know you are capable of more. Inner excellence reveals itself not in grand gestures, but in the quiet details, in how you think when no one is listening, in what you choose when no one is judging, in who you become when comfort tries to override your character. It is built in the morning routine, in the evening reflection, in a midday breath that interrupts a negative spiral of craving. It is found in the discipline to forgive, to endure, to keep showing up. These are not things the world always sees, but they're the foundation of everything the world feels from you. The Stoic ask themselves not, what do I want today, but what kind of person am I becoming through this thought, this behavior, this habit? They are not casual about their character. They shape it like a craftsman, not rushed, not distracted, but with care and reverence. Every action is a strike of the chisel. Every thought a choice of angle. Every day, a chance to sculpt. The work is never finished, but that is the point. The work is the way. To live as if you're truly free is to walk in silent pursuit of mastery, not for applause, but for alignment. To act this way is to align your behaviors with your beliefs. It is to live in such a way that your inner and outer worlds mirror each other. You don't act this way to be seen. You act this way because it is right, because it honors your potential, because it brings coherence to your life. And the reward is not recognition. The reward is integrity, knowing that you are living as someone worthy of your own respect. When you live from that place, you no longer need to prove yourself. You become yourself, and that self, refined in silence, strengthened in solitude, and polished in daily effort, becomes unshakable. The mirror never lies. But honesty is not the same as understanding. How often do we stand in front of it without really seeing, without truly confronting the one person we cannot escape? Ourselves? To live like you are truly free means to look into your own eyes and know that you are not hiding, that you are honest, that you're showing up, that you are not performing, that you are not playing a role. The mirror is not for vanity. It is for verification. It does not ask you what others think of you. It asks if you respect who you see. What do you see when you strip away every layer? No filters, no applause, no curated identity. Just you, raw, unguarded, and alone with your reflection. Do you recognize the person staring back? Do they look tired or awake, hollow or whole? Do they stand with posture or slump beneath unseen weight? Are you proud of them? Not because they are perfect, but because they are real, because they're trying, growing, showing up even when it's hard. The Stoic does not use the mirror to judge their appearance. They use it to examine their alignment. It's not the lines on your face that matter. It's the lines of your principles. It's not your hairstyle, it's your gaze. It's not how well you present yourself, but how deeply you embody your truth. Do you look like someone who lives with conviction or someone who's hiding behind convenience? Do your eyes reflect purpose or escape? To live like you're truly free is not to imitate contentment. It's to build it from within. It is to live in such a way that when the world is silent, when there's no affirmation and no one is watching, your own conscience is at peace. That peace is the true scoreboard. Not likes, not applause, not praise, just peace. The kind that lets you sleep soundly and wake up proud. And that peace cannot be purchased. It must be earned daily. When you honor your word to yourself, you walk taller, not because anyone is watching, but because you are carrying yourself with truth. When you honor your time, you don't just move with dignity. You move with purpose. Your minutes become sacred. Your actions become deliberate. When you honor your values, you breathe more freely because nothing is pulling you in directions that betray your soul. You begin to recognize a new kind of strength, not the kind that flexes for attention, but the kind that holds steady when storms arrive, the kind that doesn't need to be seen to be real. And in that steadiness, you discover something powerful. You no longer feel the need to measure your worth by the yardstick of someone else's possessions or social status, because your measure is internal, quiet, clear, personal. Your compass is working, and when that compass is aligned with your principles, it doesn't matter how stormy the world becomes, you still know exactly where you stand. That is why the Stoic doesn't perform. They live. They don't decorate themselves in the borrowed glow of status symbols to validate progress. They don't chase trophies for decoration or praise. They don't turn their growth into theater. Instead, they build temples within themselves, quiet, strong, sacred places of character and consistency that no wind can shake and no trend can weaken. Their life becomes a quiet revolution, not in what they show others, but in what they protect, in what they refuse to sell, in what they are unwilling to compromise, even if it costs them comfort or applause. So the next time you look into the mirror, don't just check your reflection. Pause, settle, see, ask yourself, do I trust the person I see? Would I follow them into difficulty? Do I respect how they've handled silence, desire, temptation? If the answer is no, do not despair. Begin again, not with shame, but with intention. Because the mirror isn't the judge, it's the compass reset. It's the invitation. A reminder that every single day you are given the chance to become someone worth facing, someone who stands tall. Not because they are without flaws, but because they are full of truth. To live as if you are truly free is not to be untouched by difficulty. It is not to float above pain or sidestep hardship. It is not to wear a mask of invincibility. It is to become stronger because of it. The Stoic understands that strength is not the absence of adversity. It is what you build in the middle of it. They do not wish for an easy life. They prepare for a meaningful one. They do not pray for a lighter load. They pray for a stronger back. They ask not for circumstances to bend in their favor, but for the fortitude to remain upright regardless of the weight. Life will test you. You will be doubted by others and by yourself. You will be overlooked even when you've done the work. You will be misunderstood, criticized, and tempted to shrink. You will face the relentless pressure of consumerism to want more, to be more, to buy more. But each of these is not a punishment. Each is an opportunity, a doorway, a mirror. Each test is a chance to reinforce your foundation, to affirm your values, to sharpen your self-trust. The Stoic sees adversity not as an enemy, but as a furnace. The heat may be uncomfortable, but it burns away what is weak, what is false, what cannot endure. What remains is essential. What remains is true. You become unshakable by choosing not to flinch when life turns against you, by deciding to keep your footing when everything around you wobbles, by standing tall when things fall apart, not because you're unfeeling, but because your principles run deeper than your pain or your desire for external comforts. You do not abandon your values when they become inconvenient. You hold them closer. The Stoic does not trade peace for comfort. They do not sell purpose for praise. They do not let difficulty dissolve their direction. To be unshakable is to be grounded, not in outcomes or appearances, but in principle. To wake up knowing who you are even when others try to tell you otherwise. to stand for something even when no one applauds, and to remain centered when applause arrives too. It is to walk forward when the path is uncertain, when fear whispers its doubts, when no guarantee awaits you. To be unshakable is not to be unbothered, but to be immovable in what matters most. This strength is not born in comfort. It is built in challenge, in the small, invisible decisions that no one applauds. It is earned in repetition, in the quiet rhythm of resilience. It is forged in the heat of reflection, where you confront your truth without excuses. It is not developed through inspiration alone, but through deliberate effort, daily discomfort, and radical honesty. It is strengthened every time you say, "I will continue," when everything inside you is pleading to stop. Every time you stand back up after falling. Every time you show up when quitting would be easier. This is the hidden process where inner steel is formed. It is not a trait you're born with. It is not inherited. It is trained, grown, cultivated through storms and solitude. It is shaped by the weight you learn to carry, not the ease you seek. And once it is yours, truly yours, no one can take it from you. Not failure, not rejection, not betrayal, not chaos. It becomes part of your character, silent, deep, unshakable. The Stoic does not fear the test. They welcome it not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand that suffering reveals the real self. They do not chase adversity, but they do not run from it either. They know nothing reveals you like resistance. Nothing clarifies like conflict. Nothing teaches like tension. And nothing strengthens you like staying true to your core when everything around you invites you to abandon it for fleeting satisfaction. This is how the Stoic sharpens their will, by holding steady under pressure, by turning discomfort into discipline, by letting trials turn into training. Because the one who is unshakable is not the one who has avoided storms, but the one who has stood in them, eyes open, soul intact, still walking forward. To live like you're truly free is not limited to grand visions, high-stakes performances, or lofty ambitions. It must breathe in your smallest gestures. It must live in how you rise in the morning, how you organize your space, how you greet a stranger. Intrinsic contentment is not an act reserved for special occasions. It is a lifestyle, a posture, a principle you carry into everything you do. It's not for the spotlight. It's for the soul. The Stoic understands that true freedom is not made in front of crowds. It is forged in solitude and expressed through consistency. They bring their principles into every room, not as a costume, not as a display, but as a natural extension of who they are. Their speech carries clarity, not confusion. Their presence brings calm, not chaos. They listen like it matters because it does. They walk with dignity, not because they feel superior, but because they respect the ground they walk on and the people who share it. True freedom is not just in what you achieve. It is not only found in accomplishments or accolades. It shows itself when there is no stage, no camera, no reward. It is in how you behave when no one is taking notes. It is in how you handle your morning routine, not out of obligation, but as a sign of inner order. It is how you wait in a long line, patiently, without irritation from delay. It is how you respond when you are dismissed or underestimated, without craving validation. It is how you hold your character when you could easily let it slip into consumerist envy or impulsive reaction. The Stoic sees every moment as a micro-training ground, every interaction as a reflection of their philosophy. There are no throwaway moments. There's no off switch. They know that how you do the small things is how you do everything. Even your silence can be a statement of self-sufficiency. Even your patience can be a power move of inner peace. And so they treat the mundane as sacred because repetition is reputation, And character is what's revealed when nothing seems important. This mindset doesn't just sharpen your habits. It shapes your identity. It makes you more attentive to your true needs, more composed under stress, more compassionate with others. You become harder to provoke, easier to respect, and slower to anger. Your presence stops being about controlling outcomes and starts becoming about radiating steadiness. This protects your energy. It creates a boundary without needing a wall. You stop reacting. You start responding. When you treat every moment like it matters, especially the ones no one else is watching, your life begins to matter more. You start to see that significance isn't something you wait for. It's something you choose. Every interaction becomes a reflection of your values. Every choice becomes a thread in the fabric of your integrity. Not because others validate it, but because you do. Because you've decided that how you live, even in the unnoticed moments, defines who you are becoming. Not because it becomes impressive, but because it becomes aligned. Aligned with your core, your vision, your higher self. You act with care, not only when the outcome is grand, but when the task is simple. You speak with precision, not to impress, but to honor truth. You live with depth, not for attention, but to stay rooted. You clean up after yourself, not because someone will praise you, but because order around you reflects order within you. This isn't about perfection. It's about devotion. It's about treating life as sacred moment by moment. And in doing so, you cultivate a kind of inner peace that cannot be shaken. You're no longer chasing validation because your validation lives within. And that self-respect becomes the quiet confidence that carries you through anything. Not loudly, not boastfully, but steadily. You walk with presence. You choose with clarity, and your life, though ordinary on the outside, becomes extraordinary in spirit. This is the final chapter. But in truth, there is no final chapter because living as if you are truly free is not a destination you reach. It is a direction you commit to. It is not a conclusion. It is a beginning that renews itself each day, each hour, each moment you choose to align with your higher self. Every day you return to your thoughts. You wake not just into the world, but into your mind. You examine your patterns. You interrupt what no longer serves. You confront your habits, the automatic ones, the inherited ones, the convenient ones that lure you into mindless consumption. You step into your values not in theory, but in action. You remind yourself who you are becoming and why it matters. You look in the mirror not to confirm your appearance, but to confirm your presence, and you ask, am I living today like someone who honors their potential for inner freedom? Am I living in alignment with what I claim to believe about true contentment? To be the most free version of yourself is not about comparison. It's not about winning a race no one else knows they're in. It is not about being better than. It is about being deeply, unmistakably, unapologetically you at your highest level. That level is not based on applause. It is measured in how quietly you keep your promises to yourself. It is reached not through shortcuts or hacks or borrowed identities, but through soul work, through endurance, through self-discipline, through the slow, powerful process of refinement that no one else may notice, but you feel in your bones. Refinement does not come with fireworks. It comes with silence, repetition, and honesty. It is forged in how you recover from your missteps, in how you learn from your failures without branding yourself by them, in how you speak to yourself when you're tired, when you're disappointed, when you've let yourself down. That's where transformation is born, not on a mountaintop, but in the valley where you decide to keep walking. The Stoic does not chase identity. They do not wait for a label to define them. They do not outsource who they are to the opinions of the world. They reveal their identity through action, through presence, through unbreakable principles lived out in invisible moments. They are not who they say they are. They are who they consistently act like, especially when no one is watching. Walk with that quiet power, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that cannot be ignored. Think with clarity, not because thinking is easy, but because you've trained your mind to be disciplined. Move with alignment, not because the path is smooth, but because you refuse to be pulled out of place by emotion, approval, or the relentless advertising that tells you you need more. Live like you're truly free, not for the world's eyes, not for likes or affirmation, but for your own soul's truth. Because when you live like it, when you embody it, when you commit to it, regardless of outcome or audience, you begin to become it. And when you become it fully, quietly, daily, you don't just elevate your life. You illuminate a path for others who've been waiting for permission to believe in themselves again. You become a walking invitation, not to follow, but to rise. So live every day as if you are already the person you were born to be, intrinsically content and truly free. Because that person is not a fantasy. That person is built. That person is waiting. And the door to becoming them opens every time you choose courage over comfort, clarity over chaos, integrity over image. You unburdened, not by accident, but by effort. Not for show, but for self.